For better or for worse, From Software is undoubtedly one of the most prestigious and influential video game companies in the modern gaming landscape. From Demon's Souls to Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, even Armored Core 6, and especially Dark Souls, no matter where you look, it is almost impossible to not see the evident impact that these titles have had on the gaming industry, not to mention the various new subgenres spawning from said titles. But perhaps unbeknownst to many gamers out there, From Software as a company goes far back beyond Dark Souls. In an age of ancients, before there was Demon's Souls, when there were neither Kuon nor Armored Core, in a distant time when even Shadow Tower had yet been a thought that plagued the minds of humanity, there was nothingness. And then there was King's Field. Unfortunately, whether due to fate or circumstance, the game was promptly forgotten after its conception, seemingly erased from history, only to be remembered by worshippers most devout. And while there may have been many attempts at bringing the game back in one form or another, none of them have come as close as Labyrinth of the Demon King. And after playing it, I think that maybe King's Field should have stayed dead. Labyrinth of the Demon King is an attack parrying, immaculate vibes having, King's Field-like being, slow stamina regenerating, extremely loud audio hearing, unnecessarily drawn out cutscenes watching, getting lost while wasting your time running around looking for an excuse to keep playing this game simulator. Look, I know that you guys have your artistic vision, okay? But did you really have to hire the actual Demon King to make this game? What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, the guy who's totally mentally stable and is not unhinged at all.
You are a creep.
Look, I tolerate many things, okay? But slander is not one of those things.
Explain this.
My name is Leonie, welcome back to my channel if you are new here.
Look, she ignored my messages, okay? Answer your DM. Anyhow, let's get back to the video. Okay, unlike this game, I'm not gonna unnecessarily drag this out in order to pad out a runtime, okay? I'm just gonna show you the first boss fight here, and then you can decide for yourself whether you like this combat or not, alright? Are you ready? Here's the first boss fight. If you didn't like what you saw there, well, tough luck, pal! You're in for a world of hurt today! And here I thought gaming couldn't get any more exciting after watching Kratos being a sad old man for the millionth cutscene. Luckily for you, that combat you saw is what you're going to be subjected to for only 10% of the time. The other 80% is going to be spent on getting lost in this literal labyrinth of a game, desperately checking your map every 5 seconds in hope of finding anything remotely useful to help you get out of this personalized purgatory you have inflicted upon your miserable self. 10 plus 80 is only 90. What is the other 10%, you ask? Well, it is also the combat. Only it's you fighting against the voices in your head urging you to put a bullet in your skull so you don't have to play this game anymore. Surely it's not that bad, you say. To which I reply, you're right, it is not that bad. In fact, paradoxically, this is a very good game. It's competently crafted, tightly executed, and very satisfying to progress through. This game is good. It's just that it's an acquired taste and is definitely not for everybody. It is a game that requires a great deal of investment from the player with very little value in return. Well, unless you count soul-crushing Tedium value. At its heart, Labyrinth of the Demon King is a puzzle game. It is like a big jigsaw puzzle where you have to assemble all the missing pieces in order to reveal the whole picture. So I'm just gonna do you a favor by laying out the entirety of that puzzle right here now. It's gonna go like this. You see a door. You need 4 keys to open said door, each of which requires a series of tasks to be completed in order to be obtained. Tasks which themselves consist of multiple other tasks that are so vague that you think that you've just asked a transgender athlete to define what a woman is. Just when you thought you finally found something useful, it turns out to be a thing that unlocks another thing that needs another thing to have been unlocked first before being able to be unlocked, so that the thing inside can unlock the thing that you thought needed to be unlocked but was in fact another thing that unlocks the thing you wanted unlocked in the first place. All of that just so you can unlock the door to the boss upon whose defeat grants an item to unlock a thing that is one of the 4 keys you need to unlock the aforementioned door. Keep in mind that you are doing all of this unlocking while being chased by an immortal demon that keeps popping out of nowhere accompanied by this goddamn ear rape sound. Okay, so what happens after you find the 4 keys? Well, after you find the 4 keys, you then proceed to unlock the door, upon which the game allows you to do that whole entire thing 3 more times. And that's what you get, baby! Woo! What do you think this is, huh? Labyrinth of the Sensible Game Design King? Like, I'm serious. There are 4 towers, all of which must be cleared in order for you to face the titular Demon King. So, imagine this gameplay loop times 4. And they say this is not a horror game. Well, it is a horror game, but it's kinda hard to feel any horror when you're too busy sprinting around the place ignoring the demons fighting each other. Well, I guess the game is kinda creepy for the first 30 minutes, but it just devolves into a parody of itself after a while. Like, get out of my way! Some people have actual things to do here. But should you decide to not run past the demons and engage them in glorious combat, then I can at least report that the combat is indeed glorious. Backed up by the punchy sound design and the gratuitous graphic violence, the combat feels extremely satisfying, especially when you employ the Skull Crusher. Furthermore, if you are keen on exploration, then the increasingly powerful weapons you might find will improve the combat exponentially. The more you explore, the better the combat becomes. Granted, it is a little slow and clunky, but I believe that this is by design, not only as a way to increase the difficulty, but also reinforce the narrative that you're just a dead soul wandering around hell seemingly for all eternity. Speaking of narrative, now, as opposed to my absolute disdain for the admittedly well-polished gameplay, I really appreciate the story, world building, and the lore of Complex of the Fiendish Monarch to a great extent. Let me explain. You play as an Ashigaru, not a samurai, okay? I've seen reviews saying that you are a samurai in this game. You are not a samurai, okay? A samurai is a noble, most probably a professional soldier. An Ashigaru, which you are in this game, is a farmer. He's a peasant that is conscripted every time there's a war, okay? He's not a professional soldier. Now, with that out of the way, as can be inferred by the title, your character isn't exactly in the land of rainbows, unicorns, and happiness. As a matter of fact, there are a number of notes and documents scattered around the world to indicate that you're a lost soul traveling through Japanese hell, or at the very least a purgatory of sorts, as opposed to what the game would try to convince you, which is that you're just a guy in a world so corrupted that literal demons started to roam the land. Looking at modern day LA, I can see where the inspiration comes from. I interpret this game as a literal descent into hell, not unlike Butcher's Creek, which I covered in these 2 videos that you can watch right here. And please like this video to grow the channel so that the book Leo can finally acknowledge my existence. The evidence to back up the Japanese hell theory is that the 4 towers you have to clear are named after the levels of hell depicted in some of the notes you find. If, like me, you're at all interested in Japanese mythology, then you're gonna have a great time exploring and learning about this corrupted version of hell and its residents. With that being said, aside from the established premise, there is really nothing else to the story here. You have a goal of defeating the Demon King to avenge your lord's honor, and you try to achieve that goal. That is all. Cut and dry. Given the nature of the game and what the devs were trying to go for, I wouldn't necessarily say this lack of plot is such a bad thing. Rather, it plays perfectly into the lost soul thing I was talking about, where you are essentially just aimlessly wandering around hell, clinging to the last shred of humanity you have left, which in this case comes in the form of a purpose. A character you meet in the game actually questions you on why you want to go through the labyrinth and why you're so loyal to your lord, going so far as to try and defeat the Demon King to avenge his honor. Questions to which you have no reply. Speaking of characters, you encounter quite a few of them, excluding the various lost souls and demons lurking around. The 2 most prevalent ones are this ninja cat thing and later on a kappa demon that you rescue, which is often depicted as this in media. Okay? You see that? Guess what it looks like in this game. How do I put this? Warren of the Ghoulish Sovereign is corrupted. It looks and feels like a piece of lost media recently found. A cursed creepypasta that turned out to be real. Everything looks dirty, disgusting, downright
apocalyptic.
Even, there is a layer of pure dread-inducing grime spattered over everything. The game is literally and metaphorically shrouded in a thick miasma of death and decay. It looks like you're going through Asmongold's home. There is even a disgusting grease demon that feeds on scum and waste matter. Now that's what I call realism. Well, to be honest, that's kinda unfair, because the grease demon is actually cleaner than Asmongold.
The thing is, I used to use a dead rat as an alarm clock, actually. Whenever the sun would come up, it would start cooking the corpse of the rat, and then the smell would wake me up.
I mean, I know he has mental issues, okay? But so do I, and I turned out just fine. I mean, look at me. A paragon of mental wellness. Not limited to the world, this disturbing aesthetic is also present in the character design. Even those who are supposed to be friendly look demonic. And as if their cursed appearance wasn't unnerving enough, they also sound like this. And this guy is supposed to be a benevolent priest. This is what Assassin's Creed Shadows does to a motherfucker. As you can clearly see from the gameplay, Quagmire of the Inhuman Patriarch has that PS1 aesthetic down to a science. It is even packaged in a good old 4:3 aspect ratio that somehow manages to look better than AAA games coming out in 2025. Furthermore, there are also different ways the devs cleverly leverage the PS1 graphics to even further enhance the game's oppressive atmosphere, like with the thick fog reminiscent of Silent Hill 2, where it was used as a way to disguise the limited processing power of old consoles, or the low-res pixelated texture that makes everything look rotten and decayed. Speaking of Silent Hill 2, you guys remember back then when game developers had to come up with interesting and clever ways to optimize a game so that everybody could play it? Nowadays they disguise the utter lack of competence behind mandatory ray tracing and AI upscaling. Monster Hunter Wilds? Anybody? Now don't get me wrong, if upscaling technology can get to a point that it looks 100% like native or even better, then it is basically free FPS. But that is still no excuse for game developers to be lazy and greedy publishers to rush their game out the door to make money in time for their quarterly earnings call, you know? Also, judging from Nvidia still trying to squeeze money out of unaware customers by shoving 8GB e-waste garbage down our throats in 2025, I say that we're on track for a good old-fashioned industry collapse. Let's hope that AMD can come up with something innovative. Never mind. If you're thinking about playing Meander of the Ghastly Emperor, then I suggest turning the volume all the way down even before downloading the game. After getting past the main menu, go to the option and crank the volume all the way down again before even pressing new game. Otherwise, you're gonna be bombarded with extremely loud cutscenes that would be creepy if they weren't so distractingly loud and overly drawn out. A woman! And if you thought that cutscene was bad, wait until you realize that one pops up every time you encounter anything at all. I guess it's paying homage to horror games of old like Resident Evil, but not only are these cutscenes not scary, they also drain the tension from the game faster than the blood from an Asian mom's face after hearing her son doesn't want to be a doctor. Trust me, I speak from experience. To illustrate this point, earlier in the game, you read from a note that described a grotesque immortal demon that kills whomever dare to sabotage a Buddhist shrine. You then later on, as part of a quest, have to sabotage said shrine. This immediately brings about a profound sense of paranoia, because you don't know whether the demon is real or just a scary story made up to deter people from destroying a place of worship. You don't know if, when, or where the demon will appear. So you're stuck wandering around the sprawling castle, always on edge, having to constantly look behind your shoulder. Well, fuck you and your tension, because the game forces you to stop everything that you're doing out of nowhere and locks you in a deafeningly loud cutscene showing the demon slowly and methodically coming out of the shrine and then doing a goofy animation as if to say, "Ooh, scared yet? Look how scary I am with testicles dangling from my eye sockets and my Ricky Berwick looking ass." Now, with all that said and done, the big question remains, should you play Maze of the Hellish Overlord? Well, are you like me, a Sigma male with hearts to break, money to make, asses to take, and no time to waste? At least one of those is wrong. If no, then maybe. If yes, then no. If maybe, then no. But maybe. Thank you to members of my Patreon, and a special shout out to Oseyeres, Spyro, Otrael, and of course Mouse Mangala and PR in the big boys tier. Share this video, subscribe, and stay tuned to watch me wallow in unceasing madness. If you don't, you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night with Ricky Berwick sucking on your toes.